What's poppin' world? What's poppin' world? Y'all tapped in with another episode of the Head of the Game podcast. Got another controversial topic we got to discuss today. Y'all read the title? Let's get busy. Now, just a disclaimer, if anybody of a different nationality just decides to tap into this video, hey, y'all can spectate. It's not my place to say who can't have a say or who doesn't have a say, but this video is specifically towards the black people, you feel me, the black community, and I'm about to go through all the nuances because this becomes a multi-layered conversation, and I'm about to go ahead simplify it for my people to be able to decipher the ins and outs, the do's and don'ts. So this is just a public announcement to the black community. I'm just go ahead and say it. Hopefully this video don't get demonetized, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. All black people ain't niggas. Let me turn that back. All dark-skinned people ain't black. All black people ain't niggas. And I'm gonna go ahead and get into the details of that. So for the most part, there's a cultural discrepancy, right? And this just comes down to generational stuff. So say hypothetically you're a first generation African American. There might be a lot of things, cognitively, hereditary wise, because hereditary and genes doesn't just come in the form of the physical, it also comes in the mental, as far as like addiction, psychology. All the cognitive things are passed down through generation to generation. Trauma, triumphs, tribulations, so on and so forth. But the main thing I'm getting at is that you can have somebody that's doesn't come from that kind of lineage, so their upbringing and their foresight as far as like the cultural things they'll be able to ingratiate themselves with when it comes down to being black in America. If you're, and this is going to be kind of messed up to say, but if it's just like, if your lineage or your, how can I say, your heritage doesn't come from slavery, things that, the past generations have to endure, there's just going to be things psychologically you're not going to be able to connect with. Now, to get to the point, the main point I'm getting at is that, and I know I've never heard nobody say this, and you've probably never heard it said before, but there are black people in this nation that's never encountered direct racism. Point being is like you never been profiled by the police, you never had any like discriminatory encounters in the workplace or at school or playing a sport, or just anywhere. There's certain black people that's and fortunately or unfortunately, depending on where you feel like you land on, that kind of perspective might be a good or a bad thing. Because if you haven't encountered it, it is the most, me personally speaking, dealing with a certain kind of, now like I said, I'm not going to sit up there and be playing the world's smallest violin talking about, the racism that because there's different levels of racism, you feel me? But if you encountered it, it's one of the most dehumanizing things that I feel like a human being can encounter, because things that you're out of control of is being weaponized against you, right? So just say, for instance, there's a job interview, and on the application, they don't say we don't hire people, and I'm just using this as an example. We don't hire people with big noses, or we don't hire people with a certain facial structure. Like you're going into a dang modeling agency or something like that. But you're going into a regular job that the aesthetics of how you are appearance-wise shouldn't really have much to do with the skill set in which the job description entails, right? But it's also being used against you just because there's a different vernacular, there's a certain proper etiquette you have to have in the interview process. And if you using a lot of ebonics and a lot of, you know, urban vocabulary, and you're not articulative, and you don't know how to talk in full sentences, that right there, you know, because people look at whoever they're hiring through the hiring process as a representation, you feel me, or the complexion of what their company represents, rather the products along with the people, you know, both people and product at the same time is a representation of what the brand of that company is. And if you don't know how to, as black people say, code switch, you feel me, knowing how to navigate through certain, you know, landmines, it can be very difficult to be relatable or get your story or get your point across, you feel me, without people giving you an actual chance. But going back to the original point, when I say all black people ain't niggas, see, the niggas thing is very controversial, because where the word really originated from is just an extension to how, you know, it's kind of like a word of endearment. We kind of modernized it into a word of endearment, only just as an extension of that struggle. We celebrate struggle because what we came from, you feel me, you know, the strongest or whatever it had for us to survive, we promote survival because of what we had to endure. And with that being said, you know, when you look at the Cat Williams interview, or you look at certain exposures of drawing the line between who falls on what side, there's people that knows how to play both sides of the fence just because, you know, it's an inside job. You know, look at, you know, what eventually eroded the Black Panther Party. The government and the feds, whether anybody would want to admit this or not, they tried their very best and they couldn't stop them. The only thing that stopped the Black Panther Party was an informant. An informant, they get the details and pretty much was able to get bought off or, you know, sell out. That's why, as bad as racism is, there's nothing more destructive in the black community than a sellout or a coon or a, you know, we got so many different terms. Your buck dancing and, you know, shucking and jiving. That's where all these terms come from, just because of how destructive one of your own turning on you just for the expense, at the expense of helping out the next race, you know, can be. So I just say all that to say is, like, you know, when black people unite, or black people get to a place to where people can be more unified, the harsh reality is not all black people can be accepted, even though that they are black, and it just, there gotta be certain sellouts. There's gonna be certain people that selfishly would like to monetize the black struggle, just like how everybody else, you know, to a certain extent, want to cultural appropriate and extract and benefit off the black struggle and the black confusion, you know, to their benefit, you know, just because of the value that we bring. You know, the value that, and it's not to say that other races don't. Everybody brings something to the table. But I'm just saying that for us in particular, or what we have, there's a incentivized, you know, exploitation, you know, that can be monetized for other people's benefit without actually having to directly extract it. You know, it's just kind of like, if you're fighting a war, why fight the war when you can get them to fight amongst themselves, you know? So just wanted to sit up there and say that. And with that being said, thanks for watching the video. More videos to come. With that being said, I'm up out of here. Thanks for watching. Comment, like, subscribe.